Welcome to today's web lesson. This is part 1 of Market Health. Over the last few months I've gotten several questions about some of the spreadsheets that I've created and used to gauge market health, so I thought I'd take a few minutes to go over them quickly. Here you can see I've got my spreadsheet up. I've got several tabs. This first page is the Quick Market Index. What I do is I'd like to keep track of how the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones are behaving. I also track distribution days within the NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Russell. You can see over here I've got a column clearly stating whether it's a market and uptrend, whether it's under pressure or in correction. They're color coded. See here we had correction. It's in red, green, yellow, just like traffic lights. So you might ask, where do I get this information? I get a large portion of it from Investor's Business Daily, and I type the information in by hand. Here's the paper. Under what's the market trend, if you look, you see I have all the charts of the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow, and each one has an accumulation distribution rating. You can see right here, B, C+. You scroll on down, and then there's the Dow Jones. So I simply type this information into my spreadsheet and I'm done. It takes about a minute at the most. The next page I look at is daily sectors. I'm looking for a quick overview on how the various sectors did today, and I try to pay attention to any kind of trends I notice developing. Like, for example, information and technology. You can see it's been moving up over the last few trading sessions. That can offer insight into where the strength is in the market. You can get this information from your broker or other places like Yahoo Finance or Morningstar. Here's an example of Morningstar. They give a sector breakdown. They do theirs every 5 days. So if you don't have time to do it every day, at least check in once a week and see where the strength is. Looks like energy's made a bit of a comeback recently after its extreme pullback. Then you also have cyclical stocks and communication services. Those are the top 3. I also do sectors on a weekly basis. The next information we're going to extract from the paper would be the number of NYSE stocks that are above the 200-day moving average. And you can find that in the paper. So when you're looking for it in the paper, it's usually near the end in section V. Here we go. I enlarge it so we can see it. Here it is. 51% of stocks are above their 200-day moving price average. So I just jot that information down. Here I have simple formula to monitor how big the change is, and I keep a tally. Then I also have a chart. You click on the chart, you can see the information in the box that it's covering, which is the 10-day average that I like to keep track of. I also like to extract the company earnings reports from the paper. If you want to save time while you're trying to look for things, just hit Control F, copy and paste earnings report in the search box, and hit enter. You see it searches when it finds it. I just type the data in. 72 were up, 47 were down. Again, it's structured. I type in the data, then I get a ratio, and I have a 10-day average that I like to track on the chart. Then I turn my attention to new highs and new lows. I get this information either from Yahoo Finance or from this website right here. There says Yahoo. You scroll down and you see advancers and decliners right here, this information. I find it's a lot easier to copy and paste, and then also if for some reason I'm unable to get to it that day, I can go back in time and get information. It's very easy to copy and paste this. Here's where over here is where I get the new highs and the new lows. And I simply type them in. I've created some formulas to calculate the daily ratio and the 10-day average. Again, the 10-day average is what I monitor on the charts, each individual indice, and then I total them all together to try to get a bigger picture. I try to pay attention to the advance and decline of all the stocks, as well as the volume of that advance and decline, the up-down volume. Get the information from the same Same place, except this time it's over here. I'd pretty much ignore unchanged issues. I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in what's going up and what's going down. So I type in the numbers there. It gives me a quick percentage. I say, oh well, 57% of the stocks were up and 43% were down. I've got a daily ratio, a 10-day average. Then I do the same again for the up-down volume. All three are the same. You notice I also have charts for these that keep track of the 10-day. The next part's a little more complicated. If you don't have MarketSmith, I'm not quite sure how you might go about getting this information. So I'll just share what I do. I go down to the industry groups. I punch that up. I've set some column parameters that I like, and I'm going to go ahead and apply them. It takes a second to get this to go. If you have MarketSmith, you can mimic this or create whatever columns that are of interest to you. And this is information I have. I like to know the number of stocks in the industry group total, how many were new highs, the industry group rank, the price change, the 3-month relative strength. I also like to know what sector it goes to. That way I can track trends really quickly. And there's a little bit of other information I like to keep tally of. So then I just download the data, I export it into Excel, and I get a little report. Here's what it looks like. Then I just simply copy and paste the data that I need for any given page. I would paste that here. So I do that all through the following tabs that I'm going to cover that are green. So basically what I want to do here, as I'm looking at industry groups, I'm trying to get an overall feel for what's going on. I like to know pretty much 2 or 3 things on every page. I try not to make it too complicated. The first thing I'm interested in is I just want to know, out of the 197 industry groups, how many new highs were there? Who had the largest new highs? And so I sort it by this column. See, medical, biotech had 6 highs, new highs. Leisure and lodging, restaurants, retail. I just like to keep an eye of what about the top 20 are. See, aerospace is kicking in. Then also, it's important to know how many stocks are in that group. So 28 new highs out of 1,600 stocks isn't really that fantastic. This final column over here is industry group rank. Then the next thing I do, step 2 I guess, I try to do it on a percentage basis, which can also offer insights. And leisure and lodging, we had 4 new highs out of 16 stocks, so that was 25% of all stocks in that industry group made new highs today. This helps me zero in on strength, see what stocks are perhaps setting the tone or breaking out. The last thing I do is I have a little tally mechanism over here. I sort it from largest to smallest. This particular spreadsheet I've only completed 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. So that's 2 out of 5 days. Well, 2 out of 5 days, auto and truck has had the highest new highs. So has books and media, household, building, computer, and so on. So towards the end of the week, I'm going to really zero my weekend focus on stocks in the top 20 industry groups. This is just another way of looking at new highs. I just keep track of a tally of new highs each industry group has made. I have a 5-day, 1-month, and 3-month look back. So over the last 5 days, aerospace and defense has had 24 stocks that have had new highs. They may be the same stocks repeatedly, or they might be different stocks. That's just to give me a quick overview of where the strength and the weakness might be lying in the industry group. Just a different perspective. Over here, I track the acceleration and the deceleration of each industry group. And it's just a very simple formula. You can click into the cell and into the formula box to see what numbers are covered. How would I use this? It looks like building has had 2 days of acceleration, so I might dig deeper into the stocks that comprise that industry group. Here's another example. Computer hardware, peripheral, that's had 2 days of acceleration. So again, I'll take a closer look at the stocks that are in that particular group, as well as leisure and movies. So that's where I might look for long candidates, transportation, trucks. Moving on to the next page, I keep track of the percentage gain made by the industry groups. Everything I do is very simple, very straightforward. I'm just trying to get an overall feel for how the market's performing, and I'm trying to really zero in on where that strength is for my long candidates and where the weakness is for my short candidates. This is structured similar to a page we previously saw. They're all sorted by strongest to weakest. Then I tally the industry groups that have made the top 20 over the week, and I focus on the ones that have made the top 20 the most. Here's a similar thing that I do with relative strength. 90 is the best, or 99 is the best, 0 or 1 would be the worst. I want to know what groups, what sectors, what industry groups are outperforming. Then I have a weekly tally. Go back a week. You can see I highlight the ones in blue that have a relative strength of 90 or better. And just that alone, you can see whether the industry groups are accelerating or decelerating. You know, are more and more stocks hitting the 90 mark, or is that diminishing? But with the weekly tally, I can see that chemicals and agriculture was in the top 20 of relative strength throughout the whole week for this industry group. And so was retail, beverage, restaurants. So over the weekend, I'm going to zero in on those industry groups and the stocks that comprise it and look for possible opportunities. Then we have the final one is relative strength, where I'm simply tracking the acceleration and deceleration of relative strength. You can see I've written a very simple formula to tell me if they're accelerating or decelerating. Then I also programmed what I call big jump. So anything over a relative strength, a movement of 10 or greater is considered a big jump. So here you look at the commercial services leasing. On the 9th of February, it had a 53 relative strength rating, and then the following day 68. Now that's a pretty significant jump. One day doesn't make a trend, but it might be a sign of a sector or industry group that's starting to develop some momentum and might have some potential long possibilities. You can also do the opposite and say, well, what's been strong and what's decelerating? So if you're looking for some short candidates, you can use it that way. Or maybe it's a strong group, but that's the momentum starting to wane. These are things you need to be aware of, especially if you have a stock that falls within that industry group in your portfolio. So that's my daily report that I do every single day. It's very simple. There's nothing complicated about it. The hardest thing is copying and pasting the formulas in, the data in, and then making sure the formulas are copy and pasted in such a way that they don't get jumbled. But other than that, it's very easy and very straightforward. One thing I will mention before I go is when it comes to the advance and decline volume, that's something I pay a great deal of attention to. I'm not only looking to see which is greater. Was the up day greater than the down day? How much more significant was the upside volume or the downside volume compared to each other? But I'm also looking at downside volume compared to itself. Is it accelerating from yesterday? Is it decelerating? Has it reached an extreme? Here's an example of upside volume. I have it highlighted because it reached an incredibly low extreme as I look through all the others of recent right in here. So there's a lot of different ways you can get information out of this. You know, it's not about predicting the market. It's simply about getting a feel for the strength and weakness of the market. And this spreadsheet is a way to hold myself accountable to check all the things that I've said I'm going to check. For those of you that'd like to learn more about growth stock investing, you can visit our Investors Business Daily Meetup group. It's free to join, and we've got a lot of valuable learning resources that we try to highlight. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, you can email me through the Tacoma IBD Meetup group, and you can also download these spreadsheets there.